in the NBA, there's a lot of there's been a lot of consternation over the last few years, probably the last 5 years thereabouts, about players resting. Actually, probably goes back further, like a decade, because I can remember thinking about how the Spurs had instances where they would send guys home on road trips.
Popovich invented load management.
Really and truly. And
he really did. He sent them on road trips on televised games. In fact, he got into big trouble because they had a big showdown against Miami. It was almost a rematch of the finals. And he had Tim, and I want to say it was Manu Ginobili, send them home.
Yes.
Say, y'all not playing anyway, so not even on the bench, sitting behind the bench.
Right.
And the NBA got mad. League office got mad.
Absolutely. And I mean, from the league office perspective, you're trying to sell a product.
Right.
And the big thing that you're hanging your product on more than any other sport is the individual players. And if they are not, the big players aren't there, people feel real disappointed when they show up, and the guy that they anticipated, seeing in the game, the guy that on the billboards or on the placards, it's like this guy versus this guy on tonight, and one of those guys or both of those guys aren't playing, it ends up being an issue.
And not just on the billboards and the placards. How about on the promos for TNT?
Yeah, exactly. So they institute this.
Jimmy versus LeBron. Not tonight.
They institute this rule that is ultimately a 65-game rule, which is if you do not, play 65 games in a season, you cannot become eligible for all of the awards, MVP, all the other end-of-year awards, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, all those
And what's
things.
interesting about that is a lot of these guys have those built in their contract.
Yes,
bonuses.
they do. Yes, they do. Right? Like, and I think that one thing to remember when you think about the ways in which it impacts bonuses and contracts is in the NBA, the NBA salary cap, as much as you might think the NFL salary cap is tough to keep in, NBA salary cap is so much more convoluted because the NBA has constantly tried to find little ways to add into the rules, ways for different teams to compete. So there's, hey man, if you have this player's bird rights because they're, you were drafted there, you could go a little bit further, you could pay them a little bit more, you could
try to keep them at home so that you drafted them.
Exactly, because there was always the fear that all the best players are going to go play in certain places and various different reasons, right? And so you have so many different nuanced things, and within those contracts, in order to distinguish the players that are really elite, and so to make it easier for you to allocate a little bit more money towards them. If you make an all-NBA team, if you make an all-star team, if you make some of these different accolades, now you're eligible for even more money. But now all those accolades have this 65-game cap on them. So if you do not play that many games,
at least 65.
Yes, sir, you will not be eligible. And so in theory, you understand the reasons why they happen. You fast forward now into the first season of its existence. We're probably about near 50 games into it. And you look around and we're seeing some of the maybe unintended effects of that. Tyrese Halliburton, Pacers guard, talked about this rule, and he says, quote, "It's a stupid rule. Like plenty of the guys in the league, he said, I think this is a stupid rule like plenty of guys in the league, but this is what the owners want. So as players, we got to do our job and playing 60 guys if we're able to, 65 games if we're able to. So that's what I got to do. Take care of my body to be able to play in those games. I think you're seeing other players in the league kind of face the same thing as long as the owners are happy." Right?
He sounds spoiled.
I understand how that comes across because it does sound like that. But on the other side of the coin, you do look up and Joel Embiid last night played in a game where Tyrese Maxey wasn't playing, and a lot of people were like, "Oh man, he's going to sit out, isn't he?" He ended up playing. And in the course of it, he injured himself late in the game. He hurt his knee. He had to, kind of leave the game. And there are people that are wondering if he played in that game simply because he's already missed, if I remember correctly, 12 games this season.
I think he's 4 games away from being ineligible to be the MVP again.
And so he's trying and it seems like, at least, I shouldn't say this definitively because I don't know, but it seems like he might have been trying to keep himself in a good pace and might have risked himself for more injury in this instance. So with that, with that understanding and seeing some of the ways in which maybe there's some adverse parts of this, now that we're starting to get some returns on this rule, how do you feel about this rule, CA?
I think the rule is solid.
Okay.
And the reason I say it's solid is because you already know guys are going to miss X number of games anyway because they actually get hurt. They actually will break down. And if you think he was playing just to try to be the MVP, that's on him.
Okay.
You follow what I'm saying with this? He knows his own body. He's not going to risk his career. You follow where I'm going with this? He's not going to risk his career or risk the fact that, I'm going to miss the playoffs if I play in this game. No, he's trying to give his best effort to give his team a chance to win. But because see, this is what it is. Everybody's got this diabolical mentality of, there's got to be a script to this, or there's got to be a convoluted, there's a subplot to this.
Okay.
Like, he's hunting for rebounds. I remember one game, DeAndre Jordan, when he's playing for the Mavericks, he grabbed a rebound because he was bigger than Luka, and there were fans actually mad at him saying, he's messing up Luka's triple-double. He's hunting for rebounds. How about that's his job, is to get the rebound. And Luka just happened to be there at the same time, and they're good friends, and he's taller than Luka. So there's always going to be a subplot. There's always going to be, there's more. It's conspiracy theory. That's the word I was looking for. The words I was looking for were conspiracy theory. There's always going to be that. But I think you have to show that you are trying to be at least, these guys make a lot of money.
Absolutely.
Guess why they make the money? Because of the matchups, because the people want to see them on TV and social media, whatever. You can't say, well, everybody's going to be Kawhi. It only matters for the playoffs. Because guess what? Everybody has got to play in the regular season games, because what fans want to see just the team and not the stars?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm very sympathetic to that, because it absolutely is part of it. It's one of the reasons why we've talked about it, why the 73-9, Golden State Warriors that year, what was that, 16, 2016 season, or 15-16, I guess, that did not ultimately win the championship.
They won 73 games, but they didn't win the title.
After really going for that regular season record, really shifted the way, and I really do kind of hate that happened, because now even less emphasis is placed on the regular season. The thing I don't like about this rule is it feels like it places all of the onus on the players. And I don't think that it's the players that have been making these decisions, at least not unilaterally.
Yeah, like I said, Pop invented it. Popovich invented it. There are times, I kid you not, Kristaps Porzingis wanted to play in Maverick games. And the Maverick fans, certain Maverick fans, not all, were thinking, he's always hurt. He's like, I'm healthy, they won't let me play. There was a team decision, the trainers, whatever, the doctors, they won't let me play, and I want to play. I'm completely healthy. But they're like, you know what? We need you at the end of the year.
And I think that's the thing that I don't like about this. It feels like a rule that then punishes is not really the word that I want to use, but it focuses on maybe not the right, or at least not the complete, decision-making factors in this. Because again, I think a lot of times this is training staffs, this is teams in some ways making this decision that we want to protect these players.
Sometimes they're overzealous or whatever. Like with Popovich, like, okay, we don't need these guys in March. We got a good record, and we ought to be able to win without them. And I understand his logic, but you're still cheating the fans who paid that kind of money.
For sure.
You're cheating your advertisers who pay for the TV commercials, and they're expecting the LeBron versus Tim Duncan matchup, whatever it is. And at the same time, it's no different than why baseball will never reduce the season from 162 games.
Absolutely.
They're butts in seats, and people expect to see these players play if they're healthy enough to play. And it's not about playing on one leg. It's about healthy enough to play, not projecting, they need some sleep.
Right.
And again, if I want to go old school, I can say, guess what? When I said Halliburton sounds spoiled, I actually like the guy a lot. I really, really do. But his words sound spoiled because back in the day, these guys weren't flying the team plane. They're either flying
commercial or on a bus,
or they're on buses, or whatever it was. And these back-to-backs, I can tell you about these guys are playing.
For sure.
And they're playing 82 games. So, again, if you want to parse about 62,
65.
65, it's not saying 82. It's saying 65. I don't see a problem with that. And it's not even about, you're denying them the bonuses. Guess what? Their base salary is $35 million.
Sure. But I think, again, my point being, I hear you, and I'm actually with you on a lot of this. I just feel like we're letting the teams that are making a lot of these decisions off the hook, and as we're saying, like, hey, I'm using Joel Embiid just because he's right here. He's a dude who, clearly is MVP caliber player, MVP last season, and he's clearly wants to gear towards that. hey, Joel, you're not going to be able to have this end of season award.
Well, guess what? He decided not to play against Djokovic one time too.
For sure.
So in other words, he's gotten it both ways.
Yeah, but
in other words, you could throw a pity party, and I'm exaggerating. You could throw a pity party because he actually played and his knee got sore. But you can also throw the book at him because he did not play the second time against Joker, even though, you had a chance to see the 2 MVPs and he decided to sit it out. So again, it's just, guess what? The league wins. The league wins because people are talking about it. One way or the other, they're talking about it.
Sure, but my point being is I feel like, again, you're letting the teams that are making a lot of these decisions off the hook as you're trying to get this result, but you're not changing the incentive for them. You're changing the incentive for the players who don't have all of the decision-making power.
In other words, what you're trying to say is people are blaming the players when a lot of it's the team.
I think that's
I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that's what you're trying to say.
And so how do you feel about this? Because 682 has what they think should maybe be a part of this. And I'm not trying to relitigate who should have won the MVP last season. That's not the point of what we're doing here at this moment. From the 682, reduce it to 51 games. Now they make a joke, say you keep San Antonio's at 65 and call it the Ghost of Popovich rule. But does changing it to 51, does it feel like it has an effect for you? Because is that watering down the rule to a point where it does not feel like it's useful?
I will say there needs to be a certain number of games played, because I remember there was a 6th man of the year that won it, and he didn't even play that many games. I want to say it was Lemon Pepper Lou. It might have been Lemon Pepper Lou who didn't play that many games. It was like, how the hell did he? Or he put it like this: he didn't come off the bench that many games. It was like he was a starter the majority of the season. It's like, how did he get 6th man of the year if he's starting all these games? So I'm all for, you've got to have a minimum.
Sure.
Because to me, you could put Kawhi on first team All-Pro, because to me, he's that good.
Yeah.
But he don't play that many games. And and he don't care. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, if you didn't care how many games, they would make Kawhi Leonard the first team All-Pro all the time.
And I do think that, and this is kind of anecdotal, I do think that a lot of the voters do kind of consider if you've played a decent amount. But now you have this hard and fast rule. Ultimately, I mean, nobody should be crying for the players in this regard. I'm just kind of examining this as we're getting more data in this, right? We're seeing it more, and we're starting to see how it affects, right? But ultimately, I mean, Tyrese Halliburton is, he feels like it's a stupid rule. I know there's some players that feel like it's a stupid rule. Ultimately, that's what was agreed to by all parties involved, and it's what they're going to abide by. And we'll see how it ultimately pans out this season.
I tell you one of the reasons why the Players Union agreed to that rule?
Please do. Because
the new TV rights deal is comparable, not close, but comparable to the NFL's streaming deal. The NFL got $117 billion. The NFL going up from $25 billion to $75 billion. And if you're a player in the NBA who gets 51 or 55% of that deal, I think you want that money. I think 65 games is not going to hurt nobody if you want $75 billion. You're a chunk of that. That's why they agreed.
Yeah,
that's just keeping it real.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, there's very much a pragmatic reason.
They're gonna blame players for other stuff anyway. So here's just another thing to blame you for.
Absolutely, but I mean, I think that's where we come in and giving you I think a good perspective on it ultimately.
All sides covered.